Thanks for waiting, everyone. We'll get going at 2 o'clock once we have our other commissioners join. Thank you. Hey, Juanita.
Hey, oh, there we go. Am I unmuted? Hey, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, you're good.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Commissioner.
Oh, I wanted to ask you while we're waiting for Josh, the lock, the installation on the footbridge. I hadn't seen. I've actually never seen it. Nor had I heard about John's concerns before. What have we done in the past?
It might have predated you. If you get a chance, go over there and look. It's the footbridge behind Eastgate Albertsons over to the university. It's become a place where folks, various reasons, place locks on the bridge, and there was a concern articulated that the weight of the locks would cause structural problems with the bridge itself, but I think our public works folks had no worry about that. So
I couldn't quite follow what his concern was.
Well, it looks like people are actually maybe if they wanted their locks removed for some reason, they've been actually cutting the chain on the bridge itself.
Okay. Lots of heartbreak.
Yes, that would be it.
Okay.
Great. Are we ready to go?
We're ready.
Okay. So we'll call this public meeting to order for Thursday, July 30th. We'll open with acknowledgement that Missoula County acknowledges that this event takes place on the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. And with that, we will have the pledge. Amy, are you gonna go? Please join. Pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public announcements?
You are frozen, Josh.
Yes, my computer's stopped there. Are you back?
We're all back.
Okay. Any public announcements? We're good? Okay. Any public comment on items not on the agenda? All right. I should let you all know that from June 25th, 2020 to July 22nd, 2020, current claims received by the Commissioner's Office total $5,913,534,000. Site and see how that money was spent. The hearing today, one we're very excited about, that our very own Dave Strohmeyer is going to present on, and this is about the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. Dave, please kick us off.
You bet, and I am going to try to test my technological skills and share my screen.
Gotta change your hat, Dave.
I know.
Really freezing up a lot here. I don't know.
Is that working?
Looks great.
All right.
I think
Well,
Josh
welcome
might be frozen, but continue.
Okay. Frozen with a scowl on his face. So let's move right ahead. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We are considering a joint resolution to establish what we are calling the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. So as many folks probably know, and some probably do not know, we have been without passenger rail service through the southern tier of Montana for the past 41 years. We did have the North Coast Hiawatha Amtrak route right through our very own Missoula County and Garden City up until 1979, when in an age of Amtrak retrenchment, it was lost, and the one remaining line in Montana that was retained was the Empire Builder along the High Line, which is what we are familiar with to this day. So just a quick recap before we talk about the Passenger Rail Authority itself as to the value of passenger rail for our region and nation in general. So it, around the globe for that matter, it has been shown to be an important and indeed a vital component of communities and nations' transportation infrastructure and portfolios. It has the potential to reduce highway and airport congestion. Here in Montana, we should be keenly aware of the potential for enhancing tourism and fostering economic development. In fact, restored passenger rail service through the southern tier of state would touch on one of our iconic national parks, just to the north of Yellowstone National Park through Livingston, Montana. There's no reason to believe that the economic benefits that we would see here would be any different than, and in fact would be scalable on an order of magnitude greater to what we see and know of along the High Line and how the Empire Builder services Glacier National Park. And something that I've heard from folks across the state is how passenger rail would serve a much needed role in providing transportation to folks who might otherwise not have a good means of transportation. I heard from a Prairie County commissioner just the other day that, and this is one reason why Prairie County is supportive of establishing this passenger rail authority. Currently, they have to drive 175 miles to catch a plane to go anywhere. And beyond that, their only mode of transportation really is motor vehicles. Not much by way of bus service there. In a county like Prairie that's aging, with an aging population, seniors certainly would benefit from passenger rail. I've heard from members of our disabled community over in Billings that would certainly value from passenger rail because driving or frankly flying is just not an option for some. Students, veterans, tourists, and commuter travelers for conducting business within the state all would certainly be beneficiaries. But we also face other challenges here at this point in time, at this critical point in time, in the face of climate change, some of what I just mentioned relative to transportation equity, failing infrastructure, the need to emerge from this economic challenging time that we're in and create a future that does not simply look into the rearview mirror and recreate the world that existed 4 or 5 months ago, but invest strategically in infrastructure in a way that really furthers our vision for what we might be able to realize in this state and nation, transportation-wise and sustainability-wise. Rail really fits the bill. And affordability, as I mentioned earlier, traveling by air is certainly not always the most affordable option, although we're certainly thankful that it is an option. rail provides another piece of that transportation portfolio for us. Many of us believe that reestablishment of passenger rail through the southern part of Montana would truly be a transformational project for our state. It's a little bit out of keeping from business as usual in that this is a big undertaking, no doubt about it. But if ever there was a nation and a state up to the challenge of big undertakings, I think it's the United States, and certainly the state of Montana. Passenger rail, again, would provide safe, reliable, affordable intercity long-distance passenger rail service. And we're not just simply talking about recreating what existed here in 1979, although that certainly might be a possibility. And we're also not just looking at intercity passenger rail service within the boundaries of Big Sky Country. What we're talking about is creating a system through the state of Montana that would interconnect with rail to points east and west. What existed here in 1979 would have, if you would have gotten on a train here in downtown Missoula on the north end of Higgins Avenue, you could have caught a train that would have taken you to Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, Washington, or points east, such as Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Chicago. Most likely, the restored southern route, east and west through the state of Montana, would travel east through Glendive, exit the state, and then travel through Bismarck and Fargo, and then to points east. Here in the state of Montana, there certainly will need to be additional study and analysis conducted, but currently the route east of Butte over Homestake Pass has been closed for decades, is probably not the most likely route that would be opened initially. Certainly it's within the realm of possibility, but most likely the routing of the passenger rail service would follow the current freight rail trunk line through Helena, Missoula, up through Sanders County, and then exiting the state into Idaho and then Spokane. So, the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. I'm a firm believer in not simply trying the same thing and expecting different results, which for all intents and purposes is what we've been doing for the past 4 decades. The leaders of the charge over the past several decades have been passionate individuals or advocacy groups, but what we've lacked in the state of Montana is really the governance structure, the institutional infrastructure, the government entity that would facilitate expansion of passenger rail service. In other states, things like rail authorities or rail commissions are typically creatures of the state legislatures, but here in Montana, we are fortunate enough to have a statute on the books, MCA 7-14-1621 to be exact, that allows counties to join together and either individually within the border of a county establish a rail authority, or jointly with 2 or more counties to come together and establish a regional rail authority. When I first came onto the commission a number of years ago, I was looking around for what might we do other than simply replicating at the county level what we've tried in municipalities across the state by way of advocacy. I was originally thinking about, could you stitch together kind of an Uber-sized special district, rural special improvement district, if you will, that would be devoted to rail. Thankfully, as a result of some digging around by Dory Brownlow and Deputy County Attorney John Hart, we found this statute on the books dating from the 1990s that, to our knowledge, has never been used in this way before. And so today we are contemplating what I think is a historic event, a historic moment in the state of Montana. And that is by us being the second county after Gallatin the other day, which passed this joint resolution to join together, pass this resolution, and put us on the path towards establishing the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. So what would the authority do once it's established? Unlike rail authorities or rail commissions in some states of the union, which actually own the rolling stock or the trains and the track and the actual line that those trains would run over, that is not what we're contemplating at this point in time. We would be utilizing the existing lines of the host railroads, and I believe that is a dog voicing its support of this very resolution, so thank you. But what we would be using is the Montana Rail Link line, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line. And also, I should say, we're not simply looking at the possibility of east-west connections. We're also thinking in the year 2020, with the changes in demographics, with the changes in economy over the past several decades, it might make a whole lot of sense to take a hard look at what it would take to restore passenger rail service from Salt Lake City up to Butte and points beyond, or from Denver north to Billings and points beyond, all of which actually did exist at one point in time. So this new rail authority, should we successfully establish it, which I'm confident that we will be that governance structure to push forward this initiative. It would facilitate and collaborate with other government entities or agencies to do the analysis necessary to investigate the feasibility of what this would take in the year 2020. It would look at the additional economic impact analyses, which frankly have been sorely lacking in the past. And that really is the flip side of how much does it cost to implement a system like this. The flip side is what are the economic benefits and social benefits to accrue to our communities along this line. And finally, it would work with our congressional delegation, with state Department of Transportation officials, with federal agencies that oversee rail, and also look for funding and be able to be that conduit between Amtrak and possible public-private partners. So in sum, this passenger rail authority would further and promote the health, safety, welfare, and economic prosperity of the region by advocating for rail as a public transportation option. As of this moment in time, as you can see in the counties outlined in green or shaded in green, we have 12 counties that have expressed an interest in participation in establishing the rail authority. We have one county so far, and that would be Gallatin, that actually beat us to the draw and earlier in the week adopted this joint resolution. And then over the course of the next number of weeks, we have a number of counties. In fact, the balance of these green counties will be queuing up their public hearings on the same resolution that we are contemplating adopting today. I'll also just highlight, and lest I forget, that on September 17th, Missoula County and other partners will be hosting a virtual passenger rail summit. And that summit and its information can be found at montanapassengerrailsummit.org. You can pre-register there. It's an opportunity to learn about the value of passenger rail, how other regional efforts across the country have played out in reestablishing passenger rail, and where we are at that point in time in formalizing and getting off the ground the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. So again, this is an opportunity for us to bring back something that we've lacked for over 4 decades. We think it would be a transformational project for the state economically and otherwise. And at this point, I believe Dory Brownlow is on the line, and she can maybe talk us through some of the specific salient features of the joint resolution that we have before us today and talk about next steps beyond adoption of this resolution. Dory?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Slotnick and Commissioners for bringing...
And Dory, we can hardly hear you.
Oh, let me try something. Is that better?
That is much better.
Okay. I'm getting an echo, but hopefully you aren't. So, yeah, so Dave has, Commissioner Slotnick has, or Strohmeyer has all the exciting parts of this, but equally exciting to me is to get this joint resolution before you, because I can say a lot of teamwork went into the drafting of this joint resolution, and it may appear somewhat simple and basic when you look at it, but that's because we really fine-tuned what needed to be in there, what should be in there. And I also think, at least in my many years of experience, unprecedented that we've drafted a resolution that will be adopted by numerous counties, the exact same resolution. They will all be on the same document, partially due to having DocuSign available, that we can make that happen. So that part is exciting. As Dave, Commissioner Strohmeyer mentioned, 7-14-1621 provides the authority to adopt a joint resolution for a regional rail authority. The statute doesn't provide too many requirements. We needed to put in the number of directors, the terms, and the qualification. And the primary qualification is someone who's interested in the advancement of the passenger rail authority. We were required to publish it in the newspaper, and the county did publish the entire text of the joint resolution in the newspaper for 2 separate weeks. So that has been done. Worked closely with John Hart and with Dan Simmons at Dorsey and Whitney to put together the joint resolution. I just mentioned the sort of the criteria we looked at of what we included, because as I mentioned, the requirements for the joint resolution are fairly basic as far as the directors. So of course we included those statutory requirements, but we also then looked what information should be included to inform the public. And we wanted to include what the powers were of the authority, so someone looking at this joint resolution from the public would understand what powers it has. And then, but we didn't want it to be too specific so that it would give those powers to the authority itself. They will have the authority, once it's fully established, will have the ability to adopt bylaws or rules, procedures, however the authority itself determines. It's an independent entity at that point. So in moving forward, what will happen once all the counties have adopted and signed on that are going to be on it, each county will appoint a member to the board. So there'll be one member from each county. And at that point, then the board will meet, most likely virtually, adopt officers, and then begin the process of the bylaws and procedures, and really looking at what their goals and strategy moving forward is. So that's what's in the joint resolution. I want to clarify that on the motion, I'd ask you to give the chair authority to sign the document. Are there any questions about the joint resolution itself, or anything John Hart would like to add?
I would just add, Dory, and this is Dave, that this is somewhat unprecedented in that it is an opportunity, and I think will be a realization of counties' ability to work across jurisdictional lines and work on a project larger than what we can individually achieve simply within the boundaries of our jurisdiction. So from that standpoint, it's breaking new ground for counties in the state, but this is an undertaking that is sufficiently complex, multi-jurisdictional, regional in nature, but certainly the benefits will accrue very locally. So it's a big project, but it affects each of our counties very specifically and very tangibly. And that's all I have, Commissioner Slotnick, and I will turn it over back to you if anyone is here to offer public comment.
So I'll do my little comment, and first just to say thanks so much, Dave and Dory and John, for putting this together. for the technical work, and Dave for your vision and persistence, which have been inspirational to watch you have some success. And then this thing create a head of steam and become, dare I say in this moment, contagious and spread from county to county. It's been quite amazing, and I'm really excited for it. And I'm really excited about getting on the train in Missoula and going to Seattle for the weekend and coming back. Good job all.
There's a hand raised, I believe.
Oh, thanks. I'm not seeing that.
Oh, it's Tessa.
Yes, that's me. I'm Tessa Nato with, I'm echoing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, this is being really weird.
Oops, but now we can't hear you, Tessa. It looks like you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is Tessa with ABC Fox Montana, and I just had a question about the train tracks by the 4Xs, and if the hope is to kind of have that train station running again for passengers to be able to get on and go places there.
I will take a stab at that. I would absolutely love to see that historic train station at the north end of Higgins Avenue put back in use for passenger rail service. It's privately owned, so it would be a matter of working with the property owner as to whether or not they'd be willing to see that vision realized. But I think, make no mistake about it, if it's not there, it will be somewhere within our community that we would reestablish an actual station for folks to board and disembark from trains.
Awesome. Thank you. And I had one more question, if that's okay.
Sure.
What do you think this can do for Missoula's economy? Missoula specifically, I guess.
So one of the things that we've seen up along the High Line with the Empire Builder is not only are there wages and salaries and goods and services associated with the Empire Builder, but one of the most obvious things that I think we're all aware of is this is a mode of transportation that folks use as tourists to come to communities. And I think for some, it's not just another mode of transportation. It's an experience. It's a totally different experience than getting herded onto a crowded airplane or stuffed into a bus. And because of that, I think folks value this as a mode of transportation and a means to travel to places that to which they might not otherwise travel to. What this means in real tangible dollars and cents up along the High Line, by some estimates I've seen, the Empire Builder brings to the state of Montana between $30 and $40 million of economic impact per year. And some of this is by way of decreased maintenance that's required on our highways. There are fewer injuries associated with passenger rail than what you might expect from other modes of transportation, such as motor vehicles. So there are real economic effects that would accrue and economic benefits that would accrue to our community. One of the things that we want to do initially, that I hope this authority will do, is take a hard look at how to conduct an economic impact analysis. So it's through that study that we would find out what the more fine-grained details of the economic benefits to Missoula and Missoula County would be. But we've got a good example along the High Line of how this has played out, and there's no reason to expect that Missoula and Bozeman and Billings, for that matter, or any of the smaller rural communities would see any less of an impact than what we see along the High Line.
Yeah, well, Tessa, I want to add to that. I mean, right now we get 1.5 million tourists a year. We are obviously a tourist destination. One of the things that causes us to not grow those numbers as large and as fast as we would like is we're far away from everywhere else. this is more connection. More connection, I'm certain, is going to equal more people. As much as I, as a just regular person, would be thrilled to go down to downtown Missoula and get on the train and wake up in Seattle, there are people in Seattle who would like to come to Missoula for vacation, and as Dave pointed out, have the transportation be part of the experience. To get on the train in Seattle, land in Missoula, see a show, get into the mountains or on the rivers, and then be back at work a couple days later without ever having to drive over 3 passes or spend $300 and be herded onto a cattle car of a plane. But have the whole thing be fun from the moment you leave to the moment you arrive. So this is going to add to our tourist economy. As Dave said, after a study's done, we'll know what those numbers are, but it's going to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dory and John, just really appreciate the complexity of which you guys put together and how elegant it is in its simplicity. I mean, it's amazing. You can get all of these counties on 2 pages. It's really impressive. So thank you.
It really
Thank
is.
you.
Well, let the record reflect that I played a truly 2-bit role in this. I mean, in a perfect world, I would have lent more of a hand, but it just didn't happen. I was happy to be able to do what I could, but stop giving me very much credit.
Well, I want to throw one other thing out here about parts of rural Montana. I visit there, central Montana often, and I know we're talking south central Montana. But one of the issues here is these are places that lose some of their best and brightest every year as kids graduate and go off to places where there are more opportunity. And right now we're in such a connected world, people could begin to live in these places that are super beautiful and do their work remotely, as we're seeing right now. That kind of connectivity exists, but people still need to have a little bit more physical connection. So if they're living in Prairie County, they feel like they can get to somewhere else fairly rapidly. This could really change what we've seen in terms of demographics in south central Montana, where these are areas that are losing people, and then we're gaining people on the west side of the mountains. This kind of connectivity could begin to shift that demographic trend, and thereby really change things economically. I have super high hopes for this.
Yeah, and Josh, I would just add that it's not unlike our goal of expanding the footprint of broadband across the state. It's a piece of infrastructure that absolutely would create options for rural portions of Montana that otherwise might be difficult to realize.
Yeah, I feel like this sort of thing, as well as broadband, is absolutely part of the recipe for economic revitalization for places that once generated all of their income right there locally. Now in an interconnected world, and in a world where agriculture has changed dramatically and people need a whole lot more land, so you get a whole lot less people in a rural county, that this sort of physical connection is part of the recipe to bring people back.
Well, and one thing, just to follow up on Tessa's question from a minute ago, I've heard from CEOs of companies in the state of Montana. One I can think of is over in the Gallatin County area, who is enthusiastically supportive of this because it will allow him as a business traveler to actually do work between offices in the state of Montana. Anyone who's tried to do work, well,
don't even say
try
it.
to do that while you're driving. Multitasking is probably not a great idea from that standpoint. And if you want to fly between a Bozeman or a Billings and Missoula, you got to fly out of the state of Montana and then back in. It's crazy. So from a business standpoint, which I equate to an economic development standpoint, there is great potential here that is as of yet unrealized. I think I see a city councilman there.
Yeah, thanks, commissioners, for having me. Jordan Hess, Missoula City Council, and I apologize. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. We're a Zoom shop across the street, so Teams is a little foreign to me. But I just wanted to stop in and thank you for your leadership on the passenger rail authority. I think it's really remarkable that that there are 12 counties that are poised to join the authority, and that shows just how broad the support is for reestablishing passenger rail. You can tell when we have a county in the proposed authority that is farther away than Seattle, and that really speaks to the fact that the appeal of passenger rail is blind to politics, and it cuts across geographies. So you can have urban areas and rural areas, and the benefits conferred are the same for both of those areas. So really grateful for your work on this. I'm sure you're all aware, but on July 20th, the Missoula City Council unanimously passed a resolution requesting that Missoula County join the proposed rail authority. So I wanted to relay that to you, that you do have the unanimous support of the Missoula City Council. And I want to just also highlight that it's a time when there's a shifting national conversation on infrastructure investment. And I think that it is plausible that in the coming months or years, there will be a large-scale infrastructure investment package that comes out of the Congress, and it is absolutely critical that we in Montana are poised to leverage that infrastructure investment and to take advantage of that and to really hit the ground running. So again, the creation of this authority supports all of those goals, and again, I want to commend you for a successful launch, and thank you for taking the leadership on this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
There's a bunch of numbers on the phone, or I'm sorry, a bunch of phone numbers. Does anyone?
Yeah, is there anyone who wants to speak to this?
Okay, well then, I will motion. What was Dory's clarification?
I think I get to sign something, Juan.
Okay, motion the chair to have the authority to adopt our joint resolution, Big Sky Passenger Rail.
I will second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
History
Okay.
made.
All aboard. So I believe the next at bat county would be Butte Silverbow.
All right.
I see Eric Nyland on the line out there. The train's headed your way, Eric. So August 5th, I believe Butte Silverbow County will be having its public hearing on this, to be followed by Broadwater, Park County, and then I believe, well, I am not sure. The rest of them will come in the weeks to come.
They will.
Yes.
Is Jordan still on the line?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So Jordan, I keep asking, but as you are a graphics-oriented person, when is the swag coming? I want a hoodie. This is just so graphically friendly. Can I just, my free suggestion would be, could you guys get it done by the summit time so people can order them? Because there's going to be so much enthusiasm after that. I know it's all virtual, but even if they could, if there's a shop as part of the summit where people can buy a hoodie or a hat like our friend Dave has right now with the authority logo in the middle, an opportunity there.
We'll bring it to the summit planning group. There's a really good group working on planning it, and there's sponsorship opportunities and opportunities to donate sweat. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Opportunities to donate services or goods, hopefully we'll be able to get something put together.
I believe a well-known struggling organic farm and deeply established dude ranch have sponsored already. Pillars of the business community they are.
Yes, indeed. Well, we will take your swag to heart there, Commissioner.
Thanks. Yeah, bring it to the committee. And thanks for all your work, Jordan. I know I remember you and Dave scheming about this way back when. So well done, and thanks so much for the support of the city government as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
You have anything else? So Dave and Juan, and is Chris, are you on the line right now?
Doesn't look like he's on the line.
Doesn't look like he's on the line. Okay. Dave and Juan, I was going to see if we could do our end of the week phone call with Chris earlier than our normal time, but I will try for that in a different way. Do you guys have to run off to something?
I've got a couple other things I got to deal with, but I might be able to do it earlier than standard. I guess the one other thing I would just mention as people start to peel off here is that we have been working with our congressional delegation and looking at opportunities that in the upcoming surface transportation bill reauthorization, we can kind of on a parallel track, double-sided track as it were, see what additional horsepower our delegation can bring to the bear through federal legislation on this passenger rail initiative. So stay tuned. And it looks like, I thought you froze up there for a second, Josh.
No, there we go. All right, I think we're all set then.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me 30 seconds after
Absolutely.
everybody leaves?
Of course.
All right. Have a good
Thanks, everyone. Well done, Dave.
Yeah, well done,
you.
Dave.